Then we move into the co-main event. I'm super excited about this one. I think it's actually a better fight than they originally had scheduled for the co-main event.
Agreed.
This is OSP, Ovince Saint Preux versus Alonzo Menifield. Ovince Saint Preux, he's from Hades. He's 24-14. He's 37 years old. He's 6 feet 3 inches tall. 14-7 in the UFC. He's coming off of a split decision loss to Ben Rothwell, but he is 1-3 in his last 4 fights. And going against Alonzo Menifield, the younger guy coming in. Alonzo's an American, 9-1, 2-0 on Dana White's Contender Series, where he his first appearance he won between the bell. Basically, the doctor stopped the fight, and then the next one he knocked the opponent out in 8 seconds in round 1. After that, he got signed to the UFC, where he's gone 2-1 since then. Most recently, coming off of a decision loss to Devin Clark. What do you think about these guys?
So for me, these guys are both extremely similar, not only in their I don't want to say their fighting styles, but the way that they made it into the UFC. All right, so if you look at OSP, he got into the UFC on pure athleticism.
Yes.
He got by in his early days on pure athleticism. You know, he played D1 football at Tennessee. He also, in high school, he was a wrestler, competed in track and field, and played football. You know, when he got into the MMA, he didn't get into MMA until after his college football days, when he tried to go pro but failed to do that twice. Mm-hmm. So then he got into MMA.
Yep.
Then you look at Menifield. He was I don't know if he was a wrestler, but he played college football. Ended up at JUCO level to start out, and then ended up going to Texas A&M. He also did track and field at the JUCO level. Mm-hmm. You know, so both these guys are extremely good athletes. You're probably looking at 2 of the top overall athletes in MMA or in the UFC right now. Crazy. The only difference I would say is OSP has his wrestling and Menifield is a striker. I think that's probably going to be your biggest difference when you look at these guys. But the route to the UFC was so similar.
As far as breaking down their route to the UFC, I would definitely agree. They have a very similar route. The one thing I will say, though, is at this point, because OSP's been around for so much longer, he's fought the tougher competition.
He's fought so many people.
So, yeah,
he's been up and down in his UFC career.
He beat Corey Anderson. He beat Yushin Okami, who at one point was debatably one of the top.
He was a title contender.
Guys. You know,
I think he lost to Chael for that title shot.
Chael Sonnen used to say openly, though, he thought Yushin Okami was the #1 fighter in the world at the time, and he fought Yushin and he fought Anderson.
Yeah.
So, you know, he beat Yushin with that Von Flue choke that he made famous. So, but he also knocked out Shogun in the first round. He's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, and he's got a wicked Von Flue choke that he hits on many people.
Yeah. You know, you talk about that BJJ brown belt, right?
Yep.
You know, so he's obviously added to his game, and for a guy that didn't really get into anything until he was probably close to 22, 23 years old, didn't even start any type of MMA at all. Nothing before that besides track and field, wrestling, and football.
Yeah.
Like that was his life.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he kind of came a long way and got into MMA early and made the UFC pretty quickly in his MMA career.
Well, and you know, you got to think about it though. At the time that he did it, though, the UFC wasn't as popular as it is now, and there wasn't as much competition. The route was a little bit harder. I would compare it to the similar route that the girls are getting right now.
Yeah.
You get some girls that are getting in off of pure athleticism with a couple of wins before they get in. They're not really having the most skill, but you know, you're getting some girls out there. The UFC went through that phase, and the girls are going to get to a point where they're at with the guys right now, where there's a ton of just top-level guys everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, he was able to benefit from that as far as getting into the UFC, plus his freak stature that he has.
Yeah. I mean, for me, his striking's fun to watch because he's super unorthodox with a lot of the strikes. He has a lot of power and explosion when he does throw those strikes. I think the biggest problem that you're going to find with OSP is that he is one of those other fighters that keeps his hands very, very low. Mm-hmm. Doesn't really cover up when getting hit either. So that's kind of been an issue that he's faced.
But he's also taken punches from some of the biggest punchers without a problem.
He just fought at heavyweight versus
Ben Rothwell, who's knocked out tons of people.
Yeah. And Ben Rothwell, I mean, he didn't look too hot at heavyweight, but he did go to a split decision.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see him coming back down to 205 though.
Yeah.
I think that's a better spot for him.
Well, it's more of a circumstantial thing though. Like even in that fight, the announcers were talking about it that fight was more of a circumstantial thing. He had talked about long term going up to heavyweight, but that fight just happened to be at that time not necessarily a guarantee to stay in UFC or heavyweight, but to get the fight, he just did what he had to do.
Yeah. Now, when you go to Alonzo, after his college football days, he did play a little bit of pro football. He played at the in the Canadian Football League as well as the Arena Football League, which is now defunct.
Yep.
He's finished all 9 of his wins. 8 of those wins came by knockout, 1 of them by submission. He's got power, dude.
Real power.
Real power. It's crazy, the power that this guy has.
I will say, though, I do feel like he lunges in a little bit when he's throwing strikes. He takes himself out of position. He might even try to pressure in against OSP a little bit. I don't know if that's a good idea to go ahead and
he
pressure
might do that
because
he's strong in the clinch. He likes to clinch a lot.
He likes to clinch, but that's where OSP likes to set up his chokes.
Yeah.
So that's where he's going to run into the danger. I don't know if that's a good idea. So Alonzo might try to stand back and try to strike.
Yeah. Well, I think,
find
with OSP being a wrestler, if you watch the Devin Clark fight with Alonzo and his Devin Clark fight, the thing that cost him a lot in that fight was the fear of the takedown.
Yeah.
He was afraid to be taken down. So he kind of kept his hands low and kind of was hesitant to really even throw anything. So I think that's really what cost him in that fight, which might play into this fight. I don't know if he still has that fear. We'll find out. But I don't see him having that fear in this fight. I think that he's past that. He's been in the UFC now. He's got those jitters out of the way. Yep. He's going to be the younger fighter, fresher guy. I think, coming in on short notice, that he's going to be looking for a quick knockout.
He definitely will be.
So
he's always looking for a quick knockout.
Yeah, he's always looking for a quick knockout.
But even more so than...
Yeah. But coming in on short notice against a guy like OSP, he might not want to try to go the distance with him. Anyway, so at this point, I'm pretty comfortable saying that Menifield's going to win by knockout in round 2.
Ooh, all right. So we finally have one we disagree on.
Yeah.
We disagree.
I used to be a big OSP guy.
Now, here's my problem with this. He did just fight Ben Rothwell, who I think is definitely a much better fighter than Menifield. Ben Rothwell's been around for a long time through the IFL time. He's been around forever. I remember back in the day when Ben Rothwell and Roy Nelson weren't even in the UFC, but guys were still talking about those two potentially being top 5, top 10 guys. He's been around forever. And OSP just went out there and had a split decision win against him, or loss against him, sorry. Split decision loss. It's a much higher caliber of opponent. And like you said with Menifield, he is afraid of the wrestling. Yeah. He's afraid of tying up. I think that's going to play into it. But I think he's going to do 2 things. He'll either try to stand back and play at striking range. I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea because all of his knockout power comes from lunging in, putting his full body behind that. So if he's going to try to stay at range, striking range, I don't know if he'll actually be at the range to knock out people the way that he likes to. If he tries to pressure up against the cage, I think he sets up that Von Flue choke that OSP really likes to get. I think overall, I don't think Menifield knows enough about the submission game to stop it from happening. I think OSP catches him in some sort of a choke, probably another Von Flue choke, and he submits him in round 2. Round 2. All
right. So I've got Menifield knockout round 2. You got OSP submission round 2, right?
Yeah, so we're finally...